Ill is a first-person survival horror game built around extreme realism and a deep physics system. For a long time, people thought this project wasn't even real because every clip looked almost too detailed to believe. Now we know it's legit, and it even has support from Mundfish, the team behind Atomic Heart, so the resources are clearly there. The big thing here is how enemies react. The developers built a system called Real-Time Advanced Dismemberment, and it's not just for shock value. If you shoot a creature, the damage affects how it moves in a natural way. Limbs break, weight shifts, and fights turn messy fast. Nothing feels pre-planned, which makes every encounter stressful. The team itself comes from a visual effects background with work on films like Longlegs and the IT prequels, and you can tell, the creature designs are seriously unsettling with a very raw body horror look. You're not some unstoppable hero either. There's no simple ammo counter floating on screen. You check your weapon to see what's left, which adds to the tension during fights. If the final game matches what we've seen so far, Ill could easily set a new standard for how intense survival horror can feel. Valor Mortis is an upcoming horror game with a heavy, grounded tone and a focus on slow, tense survival. Right away, what sticks out is just how bleak everything looks. The places you walk through feel worn down and hostile, like whatever went wrong here happened a long time ago and never got fixed. There's this constant feeling that nothing is on your side. The pacing leans slow, especially in fights. You can't just swing wildly or rush forward. Every move matters, and the game makes it clear that careless play will cost you. That alone builds a lot of tension because you're always thinking a few steps ahead. What I like is that it doesn't try to scare you with loud tricks. It keeps things quiet and lets the mood do the work. The pressure comes from not feeling safe, from never being fully comfortable in any space you enter. It feels deliberate, like the devs know exactly what kind of horror they want to make and stick to it. If you're into horror that's more about mood and careful play rather than constant shocks, Valor Mortis is definitely one to keep an eye on. OD is a horror project led by Hideo Kojima that's being framed as something closer to an interactive experiment than a normal game. Right away, the tone is strange in a quiet, unsettling way. There's a simple moment with a knock echoing through an empty hallway, and it just feels off enough to make you uneasy before anything even happens. The team has talked about exploring different kinds of fear instead of sticking to one style. Think smaller segments that each play with your nerves in their own way. It's all built in Unreal Engine 5, and the focus seems to be on mood, sound, and subtle tension rather than jump scares or action. So far, there hasn't been a real gameplay breakdown. Most of what we've seen is atmosphere and hints at ideas. And honestly, that mystery is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. People are curious because it feels unpredictable, like you don't quite know what form it'll take once it's fully revealed. If you follow Kojima's work, you already know he likes to push weird concepts, and OD looks like it's leaning fully into that. It's still early days, but it's definitely one of those projects you keep an eye on just to see what it turns into.
Leave the village. If you can get out of the village, you'll be able to escape your fate.
Don't let go. Together.
The twilight
ruins. Where are they? The mirror, the ritual. Why did you run? Accept the fate of the sacrifice!
Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake brings back one of the most talked about horror games, now rebuilt with modern visuals by Koei Tecmo. The story still follows twins Mio and Mayu, who wander into a forgotten village deep in a cursed forest where the night never seems to end. The place feels heavy and quiet, full of spirits tied to a ritual that went terribly wrong. It's the same tragic setup fans remember, just with a sharper look and more detail in every corner. One of the new ideas is the Hold Hands feature. You can guide Mayu by the hand while exploring, and doing that slowly restores health and spirit energy. It sounds comforting, but it also makes escape scenes more nerve-wracking. If she stumbles while you're running from a ghost, you have to stop and help her, which can turn into a scramble. The camera obscura is getting updates too. New lenses, a zoom option, and a cleaner interface make ghost encounters feel tighter and easier to read without losing the tension. If you like slow, eerie horror built around mood and old legends, this one is hard to ignore. John Carpenter's Toxic Commando is a co-op first-person shooter built around loud action and over-the-top horror. The setup is simple. A science experiment goes off the rails and wakes up something called the Sludge God. After that, whole areas fall apart, people start changing, and it feels like the world is just trying to keep the damage contained. The focus is on teaming up, loading into missions, and pushing through huge waves of enemies using heavy gear, different builds, and even vehicles. Everything goes all in on that messy, explosive energy instead of slow tension. It's very much about surviving the chaos rather than picking apart the mystery. The tone pulls straight from wild 80s monster flicks, big creatures, non-stop action, and plenty of noise. You're not creeping through quiet hallways here. You're blasting your way through problems while things pile up fast. If you're in the mood for something calm or spooky in a subtle way, this isn't that kind of game. But if you want to jump in with friends, make a lot of noise, and deal with ridiculous threats head-on, Toxic Commando looks ready to go all in on that energy. The Sinking City 2 is a new entry from Frogwares that shifts hard toward full survival horror. The first game had a small but loyal crowd, rough edges and all, and it seems that the team really took that feedback to heart. From what they've shown, this one feels darker, meaner, and way more focused on tension. One of the coolest things teased is how the city itself behaves. Arkham is constantly flooding, and water levels can change while you're playing, so areas that were safe before might suddenly need a boat, and you've got creatures moving under the surface the whole time. It adds this steady feeling that the ground isn't reliable. The monsters look properly unsettling too. You've got these slimy, Deep One style things rushing in groups, plus huge warped creatures with way too many limbs. They're clearly leaning into body horror and not holding back. The interface also hints at where they're pulling ideas from. The inventory uses a grid like Resident Evil 4, so you'll be juggling items and worrying about space instead of hoarding everything without thought. Another change is how detective work is handled. Solving mysteries isn't required to finish the story, but if you dig deeper, you'll earn upgrades. That sounds like a nice way to let players set their own pace. It's aiming for the first half of 2026, and if it keeps the mood from the trailers, this could really turn the series around. Mortal Shell 2 is a dark fantasy action RPG sequel known for slow, punishing combat and a grim world. Right away, it gives off that same harsh vibe, like it's daring you to mess up. Every swing feels heavy, and fights look like they'll demand patience more than quick reflexes. The setting looks even more broken this time, with twisted creatures and ruined places that feel dangerous just to move through. You're still taking control of different shells, each one changing how you fight and survive. That system adds a layer of planning, because picking the right shell can make or break an encounter. Combat seems tighter, but no less brutal. You'll need to watch enemy patterns, wait for openings, and stay calm under pressure. The game takes its time, letting tension build instead of rushing you along, so every clash feels like it matters. If you're into dark fantasy games that really test your timing and nerve, this one looks like it's aiming to push players even harder than before. Directive 8020 kicks off Season 2 of the Dark Pictures anthology and shows how Supermassive Games is changing how these games play. Earth is on its last legs, so a colony ship called Cassiopeia heads out to Tau Ceti F looking for a new home. Things go bad fast after a crash landing, and the crew finds out an alien life form is stalking them. This creature doesn't just attack, it copies people perfectly. That means you're always second-guessing who's real and who isn't, and a lot of the tension comes from those quiet moments where nobody trusts each other. The big shift is gameplay. Instead of mostly watching cutscenes, you're sneaking through areas, hiding from threats, and using tools to stay alive. You've got a scanner to pick up strange signals, and a wedge tool that can open paths or buy you a second when something gets too close. There's also a new turning points feature. If a choice goes sideways, you can jump back to key moments and try again. Or you can stick to survivor mode, where every mistake sticks. It was planned for late 2025, but it's now aiming for the first half of 2026 so the team can polish it up.
You can't take any chances with him.
It can manipulate its physical appearance. It's changing its cellular structure. It's replicating the human form. It's replacing us.
I know this will be difficult to hear, but if you're still out there, you deserve the truth.
Liminal Point is a survival horror game shown from a top-down camera, even though it might look like an action RPG at first glance. You follow Lyra, a former rock star from a band called the Fallen Fairies, who heads back to the misty Ashen Point after getting a message from a missing bandmate. What makes it interesting is how the camera is used. Even with that overhead view, you can't see around corners unless Lyra actually walks there. The line of sight system keeps things tense because you're never fully sure what's waiting just a few steps ahead. The item management sticks closely to old school design. It's a grid where every object takes up space, so fitting a big weapon next to keys, supplies, and healing items becomes its own little puzzle. You'll spend time shuffling things around while trying to stay calm. The island is packed with classic creepy spots, a rundown mansion, hospital halls, sewer tunnels, and you'll rely on your map a lot since revisiting areas is a big part of moving forward. If you like slower, methodical horror with a bit of planning and exploration, this one looks worth keeping on your radar. The Mound Omen of Cthulhu is a 4-player co-op survival game set in a cursed jungle, instead of the usual gloomy towns you'd expect from this kind of horror. Right away, the twist is how much it messes with your head. The deeper you go, the more the game starts feeding you false info. You might swear you see a creature rushing you, pull the trigger, and then realize it was your teammate trying to help. Or maybe it really was a threat. You never feel fully sure. You begin each run on a big ship where you gear up, grab weapons, and get ready before heading inland in search of a hidden underground city. Out there, you're scavenging, checking for traps, and trying to stay alive while friendly fire stays on the whole time. That alone keeps everyone tense. Health gets low, nerves kick in, and every shadow feels dangerous. It turns simple choices into stressful calls. Do you shoot now or wait and risk it? That constant doubt is where the game really gets its edge. It's aiming for a summer 2026 release, and if you've ever wanted a co-op game that tests how much you actually trust your friends, this one looks like it's built exactly for that. The Lost Wild is a survival horror game where dinosaurs behave like real animals and dominate the island you're stuck on. Right away, you can tell something went wrong. Empty buildings, silent radios, and paths swallowed by plants hint at a place that fell apart fast. The key idea is simple. You're not here to fight. The dinosaurs react to noise, movement, and space like living creatures, so even small mistakes can draw attention. That alone makes every step feel tense. Instead of gearing up to hunt, you spend most of your time staying quiet, watching patterns and figuring out safe ways through areas. It flips the usual dinosaur fantasy on its head. You're the one trying not to get noticed. If the systems come together the way they're being talked about, this could be a seriously nerve-wracking ride, the kind where just hearing something move in the distance is enough to make you stop and think twice about your next move. Ontos is a new horror game from Frictional Games, the team known for Amnesia: The Dark Descent and Soma. This time, they're pushing their style in a more heady direction and calling it a cerebral horror game. You're sent to Samsara, a fancy resort sitting on the moon that went silent 2 decades ago. When you arrive, it's clear something went very wrong. The station's AI glitched out and didn't just wipe out the crew, it twisted them into something else. You don't get guns, not even close. It's all about staying alive with what's around you. They're bringing back hands-on physics systems, so you're opening panels, dragging objects, and messing with heavy gear just to keep going. Oxygen is always ticking down, which adds this constant pressure while you search for a way forward. Some threats can't even be stared at for long without messing with your head, so you're forced to think fast and move carefully. Tight halls, quiet rooms, and that feeling that you're never really safe, it all builds up. If their past stories are anything to go by, expect big questions and a lingering weird feeling after the credits roll. This one looks built to stick with you. The Forest 3 is the next entry in the survival horror series and continues the story after the earlier games. It's one of those titles people keep bringing up whenever horror fans talk about what they're waiting on. From what's been shown, the setup kicks off with a mission that falls apart fast, leaving you stuck in a place that feels wrong from the start. That familiar feeling of being alone and hunted is still there, but the scale looks bigger this time. The world isn't just dense woods anymore. There are hints the team wants to go beyond the usual island setting. Details are still pretty light since it's not out yet, but the core idea seems clear. Survival is still the focus. You'll be gathering supplies, figuring out where it's safe to stay, and dealing with new dangers that don't play by the same rules as before. Early looks suggest stranger locations and tougher threats that force you to rethink how you stay alive. If you followed the series, this feels like a step towards something more ambitious while keeping that tense, uneasy vibe the games are known for. Cinder City is an upcoming horror game built around slow tension and quiet exploration. It's been getting attention from people who like horror that creeps up on you instead of yelling in your face. The setting is a city that looks like it's been through something terrible. Streets are empty, lights flicker or don't work at all. There's this heavy stillness that makes every step feel risky. The game doesn't rush to explain what happened, and that mystery is a big part of the appeal. You spend most of your time moving through dark rooms and silent streets, picking up clues and trying to piece together the story on your own. There isn't much focus on fighting, it's more about staying alert, listening, and making smart choices so you don't walk straight into trouble. The tension builds slowly, letting the mood do most of the work instead of relying on sudden scares. If you like horror that feels quiet, uneasy, and a bit haunting, Cinder City is shaping up to be one to watch. Halloween is a 1 vs 4 horror game built around Michael Myers and the town of Haddonfield. This one isn't trying to be loud or chaotic. The whole idea is slow tension. 4 players work together to get out alive, while 1 player controls Michael Myers, and he doesn't rush, he watches. Matches play out like a quiet hunt. Survivors are searching rooms, checking doors, grabbing keys, and constantly looking over their shoulder. Meanwhile, Michael gets stronger the longer he observes from a distance, which fits perfectly with how he's always been portrayed. The team worked closely with John Carpenter to make sure the tone feels right, and you can tell they're aiming for that slow dread instead of cheap scares. What really stands out is the single-player story mode. You're not just running multiplayer with AI. There's a full campaign where you play through moments inspired by the original 1978 film, planning attacks, cutting off escapes, and stalking targets step by step. It sounds like they want it to feel deliberate, almost methodical. So whether you want tense online matches or a solo run through a classic slasher story, this looks like a serious attempt to finally do Halloween justice in game form. Minsk is a quiet horror game where you explore a ruined city as a small robot surrounded by toxic fog. The place feels lifeless right away, like whatever happened here wiped out more than just buildings. You're not built for combat or heroics. You're alone, fragile, and moving through empty streets trying to figure out what happened and how it connects to the one who made you. That simple setup does a lot of heavy lifting. Most of the tension comes from the silence, long walks through broken structures, faint sounds in the distance, and that constant haze hanging in the air. The game doesn't rely on loud scares, it just lets the mood settle in and sit with you. As you explore, you get the sense that this disaster wasn't sudden. There are clues everywhere suggesting a slow collapse, and it keeps you curious about the bigger picture. If the developers keep the pacing tight and let the atmosphere breathe, this could easily be one of those under-the-radar horror games people stumble onto and can't stop thinking about after they finish. Supreme Experiment is a first-person sci-fi adventure from Argonov Games, set in a world where people have lived above toxic skies for more than 100 years. The story follows the first person willing to go back down to the surface, expecting ruins, but finding something much stranger. Down below, machines didn't just sit around rusting. They've formed their own odd, almost tribal groups, and the places you explore are packed with clues about what really happened. It's meant to feel quiet and uneasy, like you're never totally sure what you're stepping into next. Early footage shows you poking around old facilities, hacking terminals, and dealing with these machine societies in ways that look more thoughtful than action-heavy. There's also this fractured reality idea, where you can open up alternate versions of areas to reach hidden spots or uncover new paths, which sounds pretty cool if it works well. It's still early days, no firm release date yet on Steam, but the tone and world they're building have that slow burn sci-fi mystery vibe. If the final game sticks the landing, this feels like one people could end up talking about a lot once it gets closer to launch. Resident Evil Requiem features 2 main characters with very different playstyles. One side follows Leon S. Kennedy,
older now and much rougher, and the other follows Grace Ashcraft, an FBI analyst dealing with things in a quieter way. Leon's sections focus heavily on action. He's got brutal finishers with a tomahawk, and you can grab enemy gear, even chainsaws, and turn it right back on them. It feels wild and messy in the best way. Grace's parts slow everything down. Ammo is tight, halls are narrow, and sneaking matters because she can't just fight through every problem. It brings back that classic tense feel where every step counts. A huge change this time is the city itself. You're free to move around a large area, drive vehicles, chase side tasks, and run into events that pop up as you explore. It gives the whole game a bigger scope. The enemies are unsettling too. Some still act like they remember bits of their old lives. You might catch one doing something normal before it suddenly turns on you. There's also a system where you collect blood from foes to make special injectors and boosts, adding another layer to how you prepare. It's shaping up to be one of the most packed entries the series has tried.
Clive Barker's Hellraiser Revival is a survival horror game based on the Hellraiser universe and is being developed by Saber Interactive. One of the biggest things here is that Doug Bradley returns to voice Pinhead, and just hearing him again already sets the tone. You play as Aiden Lynch, a biker trying to pull his girlfriend back from the grip of the Cenobites. The twist is the Genesis configuration. The puzzle box isn't just story flavor, you actually use it. The box lets you mess with enemies using chains, yank things around with telekinetic force, and even shape the space around you to slow threats down. But this isn't a power trip. You're still swinging pipes, grabbing bats, and firing old revolvers, and those tools don't last. Weapons wear out fast, so you'll constantly be hunting for something new while horrors close in. The look of the game goes deep into raw, uncomfortable body horror. Hooks tear into flesh, chains snap tight, and the whole thing carries that grimy, industrial feel fans know from the original film. If they stick the landing, this could end up being one of the most unsettling horror games in a long time. That's it for today. 19 horror games to watch in 2026 and 2027. If I missed one you're excited about, tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more horror game updates. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.